In this video, I'm going to teach you how to start a conversation with a girl you're attracted to. First of all, there are two ways that you can interpret the question of how to start a conversation, and we're going to talk about both of them in this video. The first is the traditional sort of how-to type of advice for learning basically anything. What I mean is sort of the external technical details, like what to say, how to get her to respond, how to plow through the initial period of awkwardness, or even things like body language or any other kind of external things that you actually do. And we're going to talk about this in a bit, but in my opinion, the more important way of interpreting how to is the actual process of how to build up the skills so that you can actually do it. So for example, if you were to learn how to play tennis, you could get the best tennis player in the world to explain in extreme detail how to play tennis and even break down every single specific muscle contraction that they do on a cellular level. But that's not going to change the fact that you are going to suck at it in the beginning, no matter what he tells you. And it's the same for everything, right? So the more important how-to is the actual process of training that you need to go through so that you can slowly build up the skills over time. But unfortunately, most people are just looking for some sort of quick fix solution that's going to give them immediate results. And then if that doesn't work, which basically means that they are not able to do it based on their current level of abilities, and especially when it comes to girls, they blame something outside of themselves. For example, like blaming the girls. But this is completely ridiculous. And in truth, it's entirely possible for anyone to build up skills and confidence with women. I started out completely sucking, and it's something that took me many years to get good at, but I did it, and I've even worked my way up to dating models and very beautiful girls all over the world. So in my opinion, the process is much more important than anything else that I can teach you. And if you take anything away from this video, then it should be this process-oriented mindset of making slow and gradual progress over time through actual practice. And if you're really serious about this, then I would recommend checking out the link in the description for much more in-depth training. So all of that being said, just keep in mind that what I'm going to talk about in the rest of this video is what I've learned over many years of trial and error and going through the hardcore grind of approaching girls on the streets, where I've been traveling around and doing this in many different countries. So the way that I start a conversation is usually in the context of approaching, so you might have to adjust some of the details based on the situation that you meet her, but I'm just going to teach you the way that I do it. So first of all, I start out by giving her a compliment. And actually, depending on the country that I'm in, if it's not a native English-speaking country, then I'll start out by simply asking if they speak English. That's like my opening pickup line. And I can also speak Chinese and Russian, so depending on the situation, it might be in a different language or whatever. But basically, the formula is this. I start out by saying, I just saw you and I think that you're cute, so I wanted to come say hello. Usually she'll just smile or, maybe not even have much of a reaction at all. But at this point, I can't just stop and wait for her to respond. The most important thing in the beginning, regardless of the situation or what you specifically say, is that as a man, you have to carry the burden of the conversation in the beginning and not expect her to just automatically want to start talking to you. And especially if you're approaching a girl in the very beginning, if there's even a split second of awkwardness or where she has to be the one to put in energy in order to keep the conversation going, then she's probably just going to leave. So immediately after I give this compliment, I follow up by asking her a question. But again, it has to be in a way that's not putting all the pressure on her to keep things going. So it's a question that implies an assumption. So you're asking her something based on an observation that you'd make about her. And the simplest question that I use the most often is, so you're like a university student or something? Because usually I'm approaching college-aged girls, so it's a pretty natural question to ask that can also lead to other topics based on what she's studying and stuff like that. But it could also be something like, if she's walking really fast, then maybe I'll ask her if she's late for something because she's walking so fast. Or it could be something based on the way she's dressed or any other kind of observation that you make about her. And then depending on her answer, I can follow that up with something else. But no matter what, it's usually going to be a little bit awkward in the beginning. And a lot of times I'm even very nervous. So you just basically have to plow through and keep asking questions that imply assumptions and responding to what she says, and try to keep things mostly about her until something clicks and the conversation starts to flow more naturally. And a lot of this actually just comes down to nerves. Like if you are too nervous, then you pretty much just can't think of anything to say. But if you can sort of calm down your energy, then things start to become more natural. And it becomes easy to just keep talking where things come to your mind without having to put in any real effort to try and think of something to say. And I could go into more technical details about all this, but in the beginning, this is actually all you need to know to get started. Just like my example about the tennis player, I'm not going to explain every single muscular contraction or every single specific thing to say or do, because that's actually not going to help you. What will help you is to take what I just said and then go out and try it for yourself and adjust things based on your own personality and the context of where you meet the girls and everything like that. But don't just try it once, like do it over and over again, and don't give up. Just keep trying until you eventually get good at it. And you will get good at it if you just keep trying and making adjustments and learning from your mistakes, and most importantly, building up the confidence and the energy over time to be able to do it. And actually, if you can simply start the beginning of a conversation like this, then it opens up all the doors that you could ever dream of for meeting girls and dating and relationships if you just expand on this very first step. But remember that in order to get to the level where you can do this consistently, it's necessary to go through a lot of fear and rejection and embarrassment and pain and everything else. Like, you can't escape that. You have to be willing to suffer in order to get good at this. But if you're willing to do that, then the sky is the limit. And you can bring this to levels that maybe you can't even imagine right now. And again, if you want much more in-depth training, then just click on the link in the description. And other than that, I will talk to you in the next video.